I don't know.
Okay, yeah, I would join, sure.
I would join too,
Okay.
Miriam.
Miriam would join anything.
She's busy though.
Especially when the price is right.
That's
Oh,
true.
yeah, this is my, okay, wait, I broke a nail on my.
Yeah.
You can open this bigger more. Okay. Admit Anne. Oh my God, Anne, come in. Anne, I want to see your face. You have a camera? Hi, Anne. It's connecting. Anne, do you have a camera? Don, can you unmute Anne Rubin? Do I unmute? Can I unmute you? Unmute. Unmute. Anne, are you there? Can't hear you. Unmute. Hello, what the heck? Sue, all right, all these people are muted. Don? Unmute.
Unmuted.
Unmute everybody.
They are, except if they've remuted themselves.
Don't mute yourself. Talia, don't mute yourself.
Well, my daughter was talking, so I didn't want it to disturb you guys.
Oh, okay, that's.
I'm going upstairs now because she's going to actually make her own lunch.
A milestone. Okay. So Anne, do you have a camera? I'm not going to see anybody except Talia.
Oops, I made a mistake, wait. So, hold on.
Right now, Sue, I see the Golden Gate Bridge.
Right. Yeah. I need to, what am I going to do? I'm going to, let me think, what am I going to do? I'm going to mute.
Okay.
Okay.
2 people have entered. Okay. Karen.
Hi.
Valerie, put some cameras on so I can see you. Camera, anybody?
Hi.
Hi, Karen.
Hi. I can only stay a little while, but.
That's okay. Valerie, put on your camera.
Okay, let's see. Start video. Okay.
Okay.
Sitting where?
Esther. Hi, put on your camera. Anybody else coming?
I'm trying.
Okay.
Hi, Esther.
Hi there. Just so I can hear better.
Yeah, okay. So everybody, did you get the pages that I sent about Cain and Abel?
Yes.
Okay. Don, 2 people are waiting to come in.
Can you hear me?
Rodney and Roy. Hi, guys.
Can you hear me, Susan?
Yes. Everybody put on their, if you have your camera, put on your camera and unmute yourselves. People are showing up. I just taught 2 3rd grade classes this morning.
Oh my God.
They
And
were
we're
so
the fourth, we're the 4th grade.
Yeah, you're the 4th grade. Okay, I'm still waiting for pictures. Any more pictures? Hi, Roy.
Hi, Rabbi. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Hi. Everybody say hi to everybody. So we were
Hello,
just
everybody.
saying that next
Hi.
Wednesday is Erev Pesach, and the first Seder is Wednesday night, and I will be having a class just to talk about Passover, to talk about the story, the midrashim, the customs, to review some stuff, maybe teach you something new that you didn't know. So we'll talk about Passover next week. If you have time, I don't know. I'm actually going to be doing a Seder all over the country with all my siblings and cousins and whatever on Zoom. It should be very interesting.
So we were supposed to have our women's Seder last night. I was so sad.
I know, I know, I know.
But the knowing that, you know, tomorrow, who knows? We'll see
Yeah.
for next year.
Yes,
Yeah.
next year. Next year, we should all be
Jerusalem.
together in person, face to face. Okay, Harold has entered, admit. Okay. Anybody else going to show me their faces? I guess not. See, admit Claudia. Hi, hello. Hi, Harold. Hi, Claudia. Turn
Hi, Susan.
cameras. Turn on your
Claudia
camera.
out?
Here we go.
How is it up there on the mountaintop, Claudia?
Well, I just went for a walk. I mean, it's great, you know, I have a lot of space, you know, so I'm kind of lucky. But at the hospital is a different matter.
Yeah, you're still working there?
Oh, yeah.
Wow. Claudia lives on the top of Topanga Canyon, but she also works at Cedar Sinai, right?
No, at St. John's.
Oh,
Although
St. John.
Rabbi Leader says I should be working at Cedar Sinai. I'm not a good Jew.
I think you're a good Jew. Okay, anytime when you help people, you're a good Jew. So what time is it? Okay, so we're gonna start, and people jump in, and if everybody, I sent you a text to look at, which is if you have a book, it's Genesis 4, chapter 4. And oh, hi, Susan Ehrlich. Put on your camera. We'd love to see you. Saying hello to everyone. And if you wanted to put on your camera, that would be great. Chapter 4 in Genesis, and I had sent a text around study sheet so that we could look at it.
You did?
Yeah, it was on the, when you signed up today, if you got an email, it was attached to the email from the temple. And
Okay.
it's, you know, the story of Cain and Abel, which I've never taught to my women's Torah study, so it's going to be very interesting. But we start with a blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu asher kichanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asot divrei Torah. Amen.
Amen.
All right. To be engaged in Torah is a mitzvah. And so I'm going to start with this very interesting story about these two brothers. Now, what's interesting is, like, I was just reading about how people, we've all been reading, are in close quarters or living together, and people are either really getting along or they're getting on each other's nerves. It's really difficult. And little things or big things irritate them. And, oh, Abby, in a minute. So we're also, we're looking at the first siblings. Okay, I don't know who was talking. The first siblings, but first, when we start this text, it says, and the man knew his wife Chava, and she conceived and bore Cain. Now, I love that in Hebrew, knowing someone is having sexual relations with them. That's the word. And so I think really, when you know someone, it's not just sex, it's a much deeper relationship. To know someone and engage in a sexual connection is much more profound. And just using this word, knowing, talks about sort of that connection. So we've been tracing their relationship. And so they left the garden, and now they know about, you know, all kinds of, they have wisdom and they have knowledge, and they have sex. And they've made their peace with their life as adults. And she conceived and bore Cain. Now, Cain in Hebrew is Cain, which kind of comes from the word acquire or buy even. You acquire something. And she says, I acquired a male child with the Lord. And then she gave birth to his brother Abel. Now, I have this fantastic Torah, Chumash, by Steinsaltz, Rabbi Steinsaltz, who's considered the greatest genius in 1,000 years. He translated the entire Talmud, and he translated the Torah and he added all these fascinating commentaries that, you know, I've never even heard before. And he's considered like beyond the beyond. And he said this: Chava was amazed. Chava is the name, really, not Eve. Chava comes from the word chai, means life. So she is called the mother of all living things. Chava was amazed by the first human birth, at the fact that she, together with God, created a human being that until now did not exist. So this was the first birth in the story, the first time that a human came out of a woman's body was, and she said, I couldn't do that without God. Chava felt that she could not create a person by herself. She was instead a partner with God in giving birth to this new being. To this day, women in labor and people in general express similar astonishment at the wonder of childbirth. So this was this amazing miracle. And I don't know if you know this, but in prehistoric times, humans, especially men, did not understand how a baby was born. They didn't realize that a seed from 9 or 10 months previous, the sexual relationship, had resulted in a child. So this was a mystery that a woman would suddenly have a baby inside of her and give birth. So truly was considered a partner with God, a miracle, something magical that we still think of today. And a second thing that Steinsaltz says is that the first child, Cain, sparked amazement at his birth. The second child, and they were twins, was amazed that I guess they were fraternal twins. There was diversity. Like, this is an amazing thing. In other animals, there's a great similarity usually when they give birth. They look, even though I guess some of the furs are different colors, but human beings are so different. So that's this amazing, it was an amazing miracle that this being was created. Now, we don't literally believe the story of Cain and Abel, but that our Torah should talk about this miracle of birth and recognize it as a miracle from God is part of our understanding. And then, you know, it's considered the greatest blessing. So now they had different personalities from the beginning. Abel was a shepherd and Cain was a tiller of the soil. So one, you know, it's that, you know, the farmer and the shepherd, they were the two different opposites. It resonates with all the brothers who were opposites in the Torah. We always have these opposites, Jacob and Esau, even Isaac and Ishmael, Joseph and his brothers. There's this theme about brothers and being opposites. And then who does the Torah usually favor in the birth order in our stories?
The youngest.
The
Younger.
youngest. Always the youngest.
Youngest.
And I don't know if I shared this, I might have that. Israel was the smallest, or Palestine or Judea, whatever, was the smallest tiny little country in this vast, huge area of the world, where Egypt was enormous and Assyria was enormous, and Babylonia, which was Iraq, was enormous, and Persia was enormous. And this little Judea was tiny, tiny. And it seems like metaphorically, the youngest or the smallest stood for the Jews and the Judea, and we were the little ones. And the myths or the stories always favored the youngest because we are considered the youngest and the newest and the smallest. And, you know, King David was the youngest of 7 brothers. It's consistent, this idea of the youngest. Okay. It happened after some time, Cain brought from the fruit of the ground an offering to the Lord. So it seems like they wanted to give thanks. So again, here we have another instinct in the Torah to thank God, to express gratitude for the miracles of nature, of growth, or of the animals. And Abel, he too brought from the firstborn of the flock. Sorry, I'm dry. It's nothing more than I've been talking all morning. From the choicest of them, but towards Cain and to his offering, he did not turn. Okay, so what are we learning here? Who was accepted and who wasn't accepted, whose sacrifice was accepted and whose wasn't. Abel the shepherd, or Cain the tiller. Cain brought fruit, and Abel brought from the firstborn of his flock and from the choicest of them.
Abel.
Well, it says he didn't turn away from Cain,
He turned away from Cain.
but towards
he
Cain
did.
offering, oh, he did not turn. I
Did not turn. Okay.
I did
So,
not.
is there anything in these words, if you have them, that might suggest why God accepted Abel's and not Cain's? There's a word that gives a hint.
Firstborn? No.
No.
Choicest,
Choicest. Who said that?
Susan. The other Susan.
Oh, yes, right. Choicest. Exactly.
Choice.
So it seems perhaps that Cain brought, fruits, vegetables, but Abel brought the best, the choicest. And that's why, that's a possibility. We don't know. Also, this was an interesting commentary by Steinsaltz, that Cain became a farmer, I love this, to make up for the fact that his parents lost the garden. To compensate for their losing the garden, he wanted to try to fulfill their needs, and he became a farmer. But anyway, right away, we've got favoritism, starting with God, which is not a beginning. And Cain was very incensed, and his face became downcast. So he got angry. I'm admitting J. He got angry and sad, angry and sad. So now, this is a very interesting thing that God said. Why are you distressed, and why is your face fallen? Surely if you do good, you will be elevated. And if you do not do good, sin crouches at your door. Its urge is towards you, yet you can be its master. So what is God saying to Cain? First he says, what are you so upset about? And then he gives him this advice. What is the advice? Let me read it again. Surely if you do good, you will be elevated. If you do not do good, sin crouches at your door. Its urge is towards you, yet you can be its master. So what is
It's
God
saying? That the good will be rewarded, and if you're not good, bad things will happen to you. But we know in reality that isn't what happens in life. A lot of bad things happen to good people.
Okay, but what do you think the sin that crouches at your door he's referring to? Do you have any ideas? Faith, did you want to say something? No. I'm wondering if he's saying, don't be jealous. Don't be distressed, because these, as we know, I always say that, in the 10 commandments, the 10th commandment is
Do not covet.
Do not covet, do not be envious, do not be jealous. And that's a thought. That's an emotion. How can you command people not to have a thought, not to have an emotion? And I feel like that's the gateway sin. Once you start coveting or being jealous, it leads to all the other things that you're not supposed to do in the commandments. Kill, steal, commit adultery, cheat, all those things. So perhaps God is saying, these emotions are going to lead you down a bad path. So if you do, also, is he telling him, I actually wrote a draft for this for the Jewish Journal. It's like, okay, it wasn't good enough this time, but try again. We don't always get things perfect on the first time. Try again. Okay, if you do better, it'll be accepted. I was thinking about, a lot of kids, college kids, put a lot of pressure on themselves, my daughter included when she was in college, to be perfect. I have to get a straight A. I have to be perfect. It's like they can't accept that failure is part of the process, or that you have to do it a few times. You have to work on things. But if you don't get it the first time, you're so upset. They get depressed, they get anxious, they hate themselves or whatever. And so if we're saying God may be saying, okay, this one didn't work, but try again. But don't go down this path of anger. Okay, now this is really interesting. In the Torah, there's a gap. It says, Cain said to his brother Abel, ... There's nothing. We don't know what it was. And when they were in a field, Cain set upon his brother and killed him. Okay, what do you, there's no right answer to this. There's no wrong answer. What do you think Cain might have said to his brother? What? I mean, it's not in there. It's left. And why do you think it's not there? Any ideas? Hi, Harold. Unmute yourself. Unmute. Okay, just take a guess. Take a speculation. What do you think he said to him? I think it's fascinating that Torah leaves it out.
I could have said, come with me, let's go.
Yeah.
They went to a field.
Yeah, but then he killed him. So, I mean, you're thinking he enticed him, or do you think this was the beginning of the altercation, the argument, or whatever it was?
I think he just enticed him.
You think he had a plan to kill him from the very beginning? Okay.
Yeah, there's a foreshadowing in the story, because when God says, that sin, I'm looking at a different text, so the words might be a little bit different, but sin crouches and for you it's longing, but you would rule over it. But, it's sort of saying, be careful because this is in you.
This is in you. So he said to his brother something, let's take a walk. And when they were in the field, he set upon his brother and killed him. Does anybody have any other thoughts? Like, did you think Abel in any way provoked his brother? Is that a I don't know. I'm just wondering what you think.
Susan, I'm looking at the notes at Etz Chaim, and it says here, note 8, verse 8, Cain said to his brother Abel, and then the commentary is the Hebrew does not tell us what was said. The ancient Greek translation, Septuagint, adds here, come, let us go into the field. So he did, and this seems to say he did entice him with evil intent.
Right. Okay. That's a commentary because, yeah, Talia.
Oh, so God accepted Abel's offering, but not Cain's.
Correct.
And Cain killed Abel.
Yes.
So obviously it was jealousy.
It was jealousy, for sure. It was jealousy.
So you're asking what is the reason that?
I was just wondering what they say. Cain said to his brother, and then they don't fill in the blank. The Torah leaves it blank, what he said to him. And I'm just wondering, when two brothers fight, usually it's two-sided or something. I mean, it's interesting because the Torah, well, we'll talk about it in a minute. There's a very interesting thought going on. He set upon his brother and he killed him. Okay, so anybody have any more thoughts about what he said? I feel like he might have said,
Is this the first time you see an ellipse in the Torah? Is this the only?
Yes,
The
one of
only
the very rare times.
Yeah, that's
I mean, it just says Cain says to his brother Abel, and then they went into the field, and they don't say what he said. And maybe it was a lost fragment, that's possible, or.
Well, it doesn't matter. He just said something and they went in the field. So
Yeah, they went in the field.
What's the exact line we're at? What? Because I just came in late.
Okay, I think it's verse 6 or 7, and Genesis 4.
Oh my goodness.
4:16. Okay, because I have the
Abby, it's 4, chapter 8,
got
verse
it.
8.
Verse 8.
Okay.
And then God says, where is Abel, your brother? And this is a very, very famous line. He said, I don't know. Am I my brother's keeper?
Hello.
Before we go back to that line, this is like God saying to Adam, where are you? And, what did you do? So there's this, okay. There's this sort of motif of God making people look at themselves, or the Torah creates God that does not accuse, but makes you own up or look at yourself. What have you done? What are you doing? Which is a very interesting way. Instead of saying you're a sinner, you're bad, you're this, it starts with, what have you done? Look at yourself. Yes, Talia.
Am I muted? Motivation. So it's interesting if it's not written what he says, that leaves it open to every time we say something that isn't coming from a place of goodness, that's coming from a place of manipulation or dishonesty, or what our motive is. If our motive is like, if he lures his brother to the field, obviously he didn't say, come to the field, I'm going to kill you. But he's saying anything that's a lie to get his brother to the field, unless it was like, let's have a duel, but it didn't sound like a duel. So it's almost like leaving it open to anything that is a motivation of manipulation. And then it opens it up to any time in our lives when we do that, we are just like Cain, although, hopefully we're not killing someone, but we character assassinate people with gossip. We judge others. So, I mean, I don't know. I guess it leaves it open for that.
I agree with you. Thank you. That's very, very interesting and very insightful. Anybody else have anything they want to say?
I'd like to go back just to the your question again with the ... And I tend to agree with those that say he's enticing him into the field, because he kills him there. And I think this all shows a kind of progression that was very insightful, what you said about coveting, because there are other instances in the Bible that repeat this kind of myth. This myth meaning structure of coveting, being jealous, enticing, and then doing wrong, and here committing the first murder. It's like Naboth's vineyard that comes later on in the Bible.
Or Bathsheba.
Yes. And
Bathsheba.
I mean, there are all these kind of subsequent stories, and this kind of lays the groundwork for it. And it becomes, although if the ... is one of the 10 commandments, you should not lie, and it would lead to murder as well.
And don't.
Okay, yes. Anyone else? So I want to, first of all, this thing, am I my brother's keeper? Am I my brother's keeper? The Torah says, yes, we are. We are responsible for each other. And certainly right now in this coronavirus time, the way that we are each other's keeper is to stay away and stay inside and to not spread this virus is a very, there are people who are flaunting it and saying, well, I'm fine, or I don't have to do that. And really, they're not thinking about the rest of us. So this is like also interesting that the Torah at the very beginning talks about how we're responsible for our actions and we're responsible for each other. But now Steinsaltz has this incredible insight that I never heard before. When he says, where's your brother? And he says, I don't know. Steinsaltz says, well, it's unknown what Cain did with Abel's body after killing him. Perhaps he threw it aside or buried it or simply left it untouched. Also, it is entirely possible that Cain's response was sincere, as this was the first human death. Maybe he didn't know what killing was, or he didn't know that he killed. Maybe he just hit him. It's interesting that it says he killed him, but Steinsaltz says, and he says, where is he? He says, I don't know. And this is also asked the question, what happens to a person after he dies? I mean, he killed him, but did he know he was killing? Did he ever see killing before? So I thought that was really interesting. That perhaps Cain did it accidentally. That he didn't mean to kill him, meant to hit him or punch him or whatever. And he didn't know that people died, because this is the first death ever in this sequence. Also, I thought this was interesting. Brother is mentioned 7 times in this chapter to emphasize that we are each other's keeper. So then God says, what have you done? Again, this is what he said to Adam and Eve. What have you done? To me, this is a reverberation of the high holidays, of looking at ourselves. What have we done? We have to face it. The voice, okay, now this is interesting. The voice of your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground, but the word blood is plural. The voice of his bloods. Why do you think it's plural? What do you think that might mean? Why bloods more than one? Esther.
Sarah?
I mean, for me, I sort of see it as not just him, but everyone that would have followed him in his lineage, since
Exactly.
the Bible is about, family lines. So that's what I think.
You're right. And that's exactly what the rabbis and the commentators say. It's not just his blood, but it's the blood of all the generations. And it's kind of like Schindler's List in reverse. We saw at the end of Schindler's List, all the generations from the peoples that Schindler saved. And here we're seeing, he's saying they're all gone. You've wiped them all out. So then God curses him. You shall be more cursed than the ground, which opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. If you till the soil, it shall no longer yield its strength to you. So in other words, your crops are not going to grow. This was the curse. Your crops are not going to grow. You're not going to be a successful farmer, and you shall be a wanderer, a ceaseless wanderer on the earth. So this is like the curse of Cain. And there's this terrible image of the wandering Jew that comes from this image of Cain being cursed. Though, to be honest, he's not a Jew. There's no Judaism yet. It's just people. Judaism doesn't start or is Hebrew until Abraham. But for some reason, this has become this curse of the wandering Jew in Christian mythology, about the curse of the Jew, and he wanders and he can't ever live anywhere because of this. And Cain said to the Lord, my punishment is too great to bear. Since you have banished me this day from the soil, and I must avoid your presence and become a restless wanderer on the earth, anyone who hates me might kill me. So do you have any sympathy for Cain? Anyone? Anyone have any sympathy for him at all? Talia?
Well, there is the, to err is to be human. And if he didn't know about or his own strength, I mean, there's a lot of people that we have to give the room for them to change. And I feel like, I don't know, like it's one of those things where if I judge, am I be better? It's like, who am I to judge? I mean, I guess if God's the one judging him, then that's between them. So I don't know. It's a tough one, because I thought that our whole thing is to not take upon ourselves judgment, because we don't know what people's stories are. Like you said, what if it was an accident?
Well, okay.
It
Valerie?
seems premeditated, though.
Yes. Valerie, did you want to say something? Undo your mute. You're mute.
Okay.
You're on mute.
I agree with Talia. Yeah, once you put that in my mind that he didn't know his actions would yield the result, then yeah, he didn't have the intent. If he didn't have the intent to kill, then I have sympathy for him, because there are people, who have poor impulse control. I see, children, school children. I mean, they're adults too, but they just can't control their actions, and you got to know what you're dealing with before you judge, as Talia says.
Okay, Abby, did you want to say something?
Well, I just want to say that he had such anger and jealousy of his brother. And I think we all have jealousy of others. I mean, he took it to the utmost, it was sort of in the act of, like, I mean, even though it was premeditated, it was, he was just overcome by emotions. I mean, it's obviously murder. You can't bring the person back, but I think there are people that have murdered that do realize later on in life that they've done something wrong. Some don't and some do.
Okay, well, he's definitely.
Wait a minute. He says in verse 9, when he's asked, where's your brother Abel? And he says, I don't know. Am I my brother's keeper? He knows where Abel is.
Right.
Well,
That's
maybe he knows where he is. Steinsaltz says he knows where he is, but he doesn't know what he did. It's a possible idea. He definitely has to be punished.
right.
He can't just, kill someone. I mean, but
Is he a child? How old is he?
he's 40, according
Okay.
to Steinsaltz. But
Okay.
what's interesting is that Steinsaltz says, my punishment is too great to bear can also be understood to mean, is my sin too great to be forgiven? And that Cain made teshuvah at this point, that he repented, that he was repentant, he felt terrible, he didn't understand. This is a Steinsaltz's interpretation, which I find so interesting, because God lightens the punishment. He still has punishment. He says, I promise if anyone kills Cain, sevenfold vengeance shall be taken unto him. And the Lord put the mark on Cain, so Cain had a mark on his forehead, lest anyone who meets him should kill him. So God said, okay, you can't be killed, but you have to leave where you are. Now, later on, there are these things in the Torah called the cities of refuge, where if you do commit manslaughter, not premeditated murder, but manslaughter, you can flee to the city and be safe from the revenge of the family. And you can live there in peace, but you can't leave. You have to stay in the city of refuge until, just 1 second, Claudia, the high priest of the temple dies and a new one is replaced. So this is kind of a foreshadowing of you're punished and you have to leave, but you're not going to be killed because it was accidental. So maybe it was accidental. Claudia.
Well, I think it sets up two things. One, because it's a first killing, and he might not have had intent. He might not have known his strength, whatever the reasons behind it. But God is saying, taking one's life, someone else's life, is basically the worst act that you can, that you can do. And yes, it should be punished really harshly, whether the intent was there or not. But also that, you don't punish by taking another's life. It's not a life for a life.
Well, there is capital punishment in the Torah, but it's so rare because you have to have 2 eyewitnesses to the actual act to be convicted of premeditated murder, which Rabbi Akiba said, if you convict one person in 70 years, you're a bloodthirsty court. So it was so rare. People did get punished, but capital punishment was very, very rare. And again, I'm saying Steinsaltz thinks that he made teshuvah. But this is really interesting, the end of the story. Cain left the presence of the Lord and settled in the land of Nod, east of Eden. And by the way, John Steinbeck's novel, East of Eden, is based on this little phrase. Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and bore Enoch. So we'll talk about who's this wife. And he then founded a city and named the city after his son Enoch. So the result of Cain, the farmer, being exiled from the land is that he founded the first city and created, according to some commentaries, civilization and culture. So was that a good thing or a bad thing? What do we think, to create the first city? Susan.
It became the Tower of Babel.
Eventually, yes, the Tower of Babel eventually was the result of that. But he created the first city. He was marked. And then it says he had a wife. So if there were only Cain and Abel and Adam and Eve, who was his wife? Does anybody have any ideas? You're not going to know this, I don't think.
Did you see that Adam and Eve had another son?
They had another son, Seth.
Yeah. And then of course, it was
Well, according to Rashi, it says, and Cain and Abel were born. And he says the ands mean there was a twin sister with each one, or a sister. So that they married each other's sisters. So, there were girls born that, again, weren't mentioned. So this is the story of these, it's a very complex story. I mean, we really think of Cain and Abel basically as the good brother and the bad brother, but Steinsaltz really makes us look into the idea of flawed human beings, of mistakes, of not knowing what you're doing, of some kind of teshuvah, even at this early point, and Cain asking for forgiveness or saying, is there anything I can do? And then the creation of the first city is the result. So this is a pretty interesting idea that actually, if you think of a city as a good thing, Cain found a way, like Hakarat Hatov, to find something good from his exile and his wandering to create something useful. Because personally, I like cities. So, yeah. The second set of brothers that we probably have never talked about, and it's fascinating, are Noah's sons. Noah had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. In Hebrew, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And Shem is where the Jews are supposedly descended from, and that's where the word Semite comes from. Noah's son, Shem, is a Shemi or a Semite. So that's how we got this name Semites, from this mythical story about the flood. And after they came out of the ark, now Noah, if you remember at all about his story, they said he was a good man of his generation, meaning he wasn't the greatest guy, but he was the best of a pretty bad generation. And he came out of the ark, and the first thing that he planted was a vineyard. And the rabbi criticized him for that. He didn't plant food, he didn't plant sustenance, he wanted wine. He said, after 40 days and 40 nights, I need a drink. I need a drink. But he planted a vineyard and he made wine. So they don't say how long. It's like he planted a vineyard, and in the next sentence, he drank some wine. So, and he became drunk. And he lay uncovered inside his tent. So he was in a drunken stupor, and his robe was up. So he was exposed, basically. Such an interesting story for the Torah, really. And Ham, the father of Canaan, saw his father naked and told his 2 brothers outside. Now, Canaan or Canaan is going to be the enemy of the Israelites, right? Canaan is who they're going to conquer. Canaan are the idolaters. Canaan are the idol worshipers, and they had sexual excess. And in the myth already, the Jewish myth, we're starting to already label Canaan as bad. So in our psyche, as we continue to read the Torah, we're already going to be prejudiced against Canaan. So that's what this story, I think, is really about. Canaan. So his father, Ham, told his 2 brothers. So Shem and Japheth took a garment and laid it across their shoulders. And okay, so the brothers took a garment and they walked backward into the tent and covered their father's naked body. And they turned their faces so that they would not see their father naked. So what's the Torah telling us about nakedness?
It's not next to godliness.
It's not next.
It's the second time, because from Adam and Eve, and now with Noah.
They're really into not being naked.
No nudist colonies there.
No, but I think about also, I always, when I look at the Torah, I look at it on 2 levels. The spiritual, inspirational level, and then kind of the cultural level. And what culture living nearby walked around basically half naked? The Egyptians. If you look at all of their pictures and paintings, and their whole bodies, except for this loincloth, is exposed. They're basically almost semi-naked. And even the women, they were very low and very exposed. And I also often feel that ancient Judaism, part of it was a reaction to the cultures around them that they found to be negative. So they were like, no. Also, you know, I think in the desert and in the hot weather, you covered anyway. But the modesty element is already here in this very, very early story. First, Adam and Eve, they saw they were naked and they were ashamed. And now, again, Noah. So we're really talking in a unfortunate way, maybe, that bodies are, exposed bodies are dangerous, or exposed bodies are not consistent with, you know, Judaism or ancient Judaism or Orthodox Judaism, or, you know, that modesty is very important. And when Noah woke from his wine and found out what his youngest son had done, he said to him, so this is weird. What did he do? We don't even know. Ham saw his father naked. So of course the rabbis have to say, well, he must have done something wrong, or exposed him, or touched him, or something. But it's, again, it's one of these fill in the blanks. And who does he curse? Not Ham, Canaan, because this is all about Canaan. This story to me is all about getting Canaan in our psyche as negative. Cursed be Canaan, the lowest of slaves, will he be to his brothers. And okay, so already Canaan, that's it. Jericho's going down. Everything that's going to happen in the future. We know that the Torah was basically compiled or edited in 400 BCE, way after the stories of entering the land. So, and he said, praise the Lord, the God of Shem. Okay, Shem is us. We're Shem, the Semites, Jews. May Canaan be the slave of Shem. It's setting us up. May God extend Japheth's territory. May Japheth live in the tents of Shem. May Canaan be the slave of Japheth. So poor Canaan, and it's not his father who did it, but he's already cursing Canaan. So this story is really a setup for the enmity between these two nations, which is very sad. Because we know that Ishmael and Isaac later on made peace and got along. So that's what this story is about. So these two stories are about, you know, well, one, you know, mistakes, and also there's, you can be labeled in a negative way unfairly, and it can, I feel like the Jews have been labeled in an unfairly way all the generations. Some people don't even know who Jews are, only what they hear. So this is a very, you know, important lesson here, not to generalize and not to label people, and to look deeper into their behavior. I found the Steinsaltz understanding of Cain very unique. And I think that this is a setup in the Torah about Cain and Canaan that we can continue to discuss as we go forward. So that's all for today. It's next week, we're gonna talk about Pesach. We're gonna talk all about Pesach. I'm gonna tell you some midrashim, some things you might be able to use at your Seder at 12 o'clock. And in the meantime, have a beautiful week. Shabbat shalom, stay safe. I send you my love. I miss you, and I look forward to we can all be in a room together.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, Susan.
Susan.